On Thursday, December 18th, 2025 at 7:01 p.m. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on HWCam. We will start off with an opportunity for citizens' comments. Doesn't look like there's anyone on Zoom. Is that correct, Eric?
Correct.
I'm going to guess there's no one in the room that's offering a citizen's comment. Okay. Seeing no people who are interested in commenting, I'm going to close citizens' comments at this time.
Closing citizens'
All right,
comments.
and they're closed on Zoom, and we will move forward. Next up is a review of a portion of our school committee protocols. Kristen.
As elected members of the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. Administration will endeavor to make materials for school committee meetings available the Friday before the meeting. The school committee will recognize that some circumstances will not always make this possible. In any event, we recognize that having background materials available for school committee members is a best practice.
Thank you. Next up is a portion of our school committee mission statement. Jen.
The Hamilton Wenham Regional School District Committee's mission is to ensure our schools create graduates with a passion for lifelong learning, together with the critical skills needed to maximize their potential. The Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee will lead and inspire a district that inspires all students to realize their fullest potential and feel a powerful sense of individual and collective belonging.
Thank you. Next up is the superintendent's report. Eric.
A couple of small things. I just wanted to note the exhibit on the agenda. We've changed around how we're doing the recognitions for athletics. Rather than have a couple of kids come and a couple of coaches come, we're doing it a little differently. So we gave an overview from Craig Genualdo, which is part of the exhibits here. They're going to do individual recognitions on all the social media. They have the social media team at the high school now, and then do announcements and things around the schools on the TVs and TV screens. Pretty broad selection of kids here. They're really an outline of everything that happened in the fall. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my browser here. There we go. All the things that happened in the fall, and it gives us an outline of who the champions were, who became tournament winners, who some of our captains were, who the special award winners, all in this one memo. So I wanted to just bring that to everybody's attention. Second thing, the school start time committee met again this week, third meeting, and we continue to dig into a lot of the data. We invited Craig Genualdo, the athletic director, to the meeting to get some insight from him, have some questions answered. He gave us a really good amount of data related to when things start, when things need to start, especially when kids travel. So gave us a lot of information to look at. We have another meeting that'll be after the holidays, and we've invited Melissa Emler from the community house. She'll be doing the same thing. We'll kind of do a Q&A with her, figure out what happens if certain shifts are made, and then we'll continue on. Our goal is to have a report to the committee with some type of a recommendation in early March. So we're hoping the first meeting in March. That is our target. So we're trying to do at least 3 more meetings before we get to that point. And then the second order of business is the third order of business is the AI group. We're going to put together a small group of people to develop a policy in early January, who will work together to use the information from DESE as we outlined in our goal, that we'll use the information that DESE has provided. They've done a lot more research. They've put a lot more information out there now for policy development, but also so that we can start to devise what a test pilot would look like at certain grade levels. So we'll kick that off in January. And then the final thing, Jen Clifford and I are putting together the strategic planning process, which will also kick off in January. That will really give us the opportunity to begin to examine everything that we've done for the past 4 years, 4.5 years, all the things that we've completed, the things that we're working on, what we project into the future, and then really trying to build a plan that's 5 years this time instead of 3. So all of that work is coming at us, and I just wanted to give people a heads up that it will be mostly launching right after vacation and within the month of January. The strategic plan will probably take us into April-ish, maybe May, depending on how many meetings. We're thinking between 5 and 6 meetings of the group before we can formulate a final plan. And then that's really it for now. Just want to give people some updates.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for Eric? Eric, I don't want to step on add something to your report, but I just discussed it earlier. Right before this meeting, I just wanted to acknowledge that the position paper that Eric wrote regarding the school funding that you presented to us, Chapter 70 funding that you presented to us in, I think, November, I just wanted to put forward. I just watched the Wenham Select Board meeting. I don't know if anyone else watched that, but the Wenham Select Board voted in support, to write a letter of support of that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge the Wenham Select Board for taking the time to study it and discuss it. And
Yeah. Thank you.
so,
We also have a letter we just finished generating from the superintendent's roundtable. So it's like over 20 superintendents. We built a kind of the next version of. These are some deeper thoughts about it because so many districts have different pieces of the puzzle. So we just finished another document that we submitted as well. So this hopefully we'll get some movement on it.
yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have anything else? No? Okay. Next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items that they would like to have held from the consent agenda?
No. I move that the school committee approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second by Kristen Noon. All those in favor? That is unanimous of the 6 members present, and the motion passes. All right. Next up, we have Mr. Menegoni, I believe, is going to give us some information about the high school program of studies for next year.
Thank you. And just to give a little context, the program of studies is reviewed and approved annually by the committee. When I was the principal, and Brian still continues that, they have a group that will review it at the high school level, make some adjustments, changes. Some are seasonal because some years we run some courses and some we don't. So you'll see some courses come in and some go out. And I'll just leave that to Brian to explain it, some of the changes and adjustments. So Brian Menegoni.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. Just wanted to maybe summarize some of the major changes in our program of studies for the 26-27 school year. Like in the front here, we have new courses that we're going to be offering. First one in the math department, probability and game theory. We were looking to add another math elective, and we thought that a class that focuses on critical thinking, strategic thinking, but also the ability to use numbers across a variety of disciplines would be a nice opportunity for kids, especially older kids, who have developed their foundational math skills, to expand a little bit and see how math can be applied in some real-world contexts. So that's one new course. Another new course we're going to be offering next year is AP Business with Personal Finance. And so we're adding another AP course to our roster of opportunities for students. The good thing about this is that it's a very accessible course. Any kid can really take it. We're going to start out by offering it to 11th and 12th graders, just really for scheduling purposes in year one. also to allow the teacher some time to learn how to actually run kids through this course, and then look at adding or opening it up to 10th graders following year to give younger kids a chance to take AP courses. Also, AP Business will be offered for dual enrollment, meaning a student can pay a fee and actually receive college credit for passing the course from Southern New Hampshire University. And I think this is a good thing because kids may or may not do well on the actual AP test connected to that course, which, would determine whether or not they receive college credit. But if they receive a passing grade in the course without having to take the AP test, they can still get college credit through Southern New Hampshire, which can be then transferred to a variety of institutions. And then the final new course is a semester elective in the science department, microbiology. This is a course that I think kids have kind of been asking about for a little while. We've been watching our other course signups for some of the other semester electives in science, and we can talk about that a little bit, but we felt that microbiology would be a nice partner course for the biotechnology course that we already teach, because they use a lot of the same equipment and materials. And we think it'd be nice to get kids who actually took both, so they almost get like a year-long experience in both biotechnology and the closely connected microbiology. And it's a very hands-on course, which will be accessible to a lot of students. Yeah, Jen?
At what BSL level are we running that micro course, and are we set up for it?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
At what biosafety level are we running the microbiology course?
The same level that we would be using it for any of the other bio courses that we have at the high school, where they are already using media growing bacteria. So it's, that's already some.
Which bacteria are being grown? Because some are biohazards and some are not.
Yeah, we haven't ever worked with anything that's considered a biohazard. That's, I think, the advantage of working with some of the bigger vendors is that they provide things that aren't going to cause problems for secondary school settings. So after new courses, we have some courses that we're just going to excise out of the program of studies. The Advanced Algebra and Trigonometry course, this was a senior year course that just hasn't run for several years because kids who don't take pre-calculus or calculus their senior year, or even AP Stats, have been taking statistics as their senior year course, and it's worked well for them because I think it provides them with a foundation that will be useful in whatever field that they go into. And then biochemistry is the science course I was alluding to earlier that we're going to be cutting out of the program of studies. We just haven't had the sign-ups for it, and it's not as hands-on a course as microbiology could be. Biochemistry can be a tough course to run in a high school setting just because of some of the things that you're using and the equipment that you need for it, especially if you want to do it hands-on. There's some substantive course description changes. They're outlined in the memo, especially in the math area where there are foundational courses. Course description has been updated based on some of the instructional materials that we use, instructional strategies, and alignment with standards. Biology has been updated, I think, to align better, again, with the new instructional materials that we have and the instructional approach that we're using. Anatomy and physiology was updated, and I can talk a little bit more about that, why we're doing that, updating the course description for anatomy. And then there were a number of art courses where we just chose to freshen up the language in the course descriptions to align it more with what we're doing, and the same with 10th grade wellness. The other changes that are in there that are oftentimes part of the course descriptions themselves, like I said earlier, AP Business with Personal Finance is another dual enrollment option on top of environmental science and also the marketing course that we have. And then we're going to make our anatomy and physiology course a dual enrollment option for students. So again, if they would like to pay the fee and they pass the class, they can receive credit at Southern New Hampshire. And that's another reason why we updated our course description, is to align it with what Southern New Hampshire is looking for as well. And adding dual enrollment courses was one of our school goals for this year, just to give more kids the option to get college credit before they leave the high school, and offering it outside the arena of taking AP tests. To make room for AP Business, because it's a year-long course for scheduling purposes, we are not going to run the marketing course that I had just talked about, which is a dual enrollment option, because we have one business teacher at the high school, and if that teacher were to teach both AP Business and the marketing course, we'd start to run out of room in that teacher's schedule for some of the other electives that she would be teaching. And we need her to teach those electives because kids need to take classes, but also they need the foundational knowledge in the business area to be able to take some of the more advanced courses. So we had to make room in that schedule. Every other year, courses come into the program of studies and go out of the program of studies and social studies, because this year we're going to be actually I should say next year, we're going to be running contemporary history and current American conflicts, and to make room for that, real history and law and society will take a break for a year, and we've done that for a number of years, because what happens oftentimes if you offer too many electives at once, kids sign up for all of them, and then you have absolutely no idea what you're supposed to run. So by limiting the options a little bit, we get a better idea of what students actually really want to take, and then we're able to schedule them into those courses. Another thing that we added to the program of studies was a description of our grading scale and our GPA scale. In some conversations with parents, they thought it would be a good idea just to have that information side by side with the course description, so that way you know what you're signing up for and what the potential impact could be on a kid's grades and GPA. And I do make the point in the program of studies that should not be a reason why you take a particular course at a particular level, but it is something to keep in mind as you are moving through the high school. And finally, we added a description of the competency determination, the new one, from our own policy. We had always had that in the program of studies, but before it was really short and sweet, where it just said you have to pass MCAS. Now it's a number of pages long, and I would expect we'll probably be putting a new competency determination policy in there next year as well. But wanted to make sure that that information is available to students and parents as they start looking through picking courses. The good thing is that all the courses that kids need as part of the competency determination are really required courses, so they're going to wind up taking them anyways, but just want families and students to have that information. So I believe that's all I have for you for updates to the program of studies.
Thank you. Questions?
Two comments, actually. I was reading through the A&P one, or the A&P description, and there are 12 organ systems, not 11. You guys say 11, but in reality there are 12.
I'm sure we could go to different places, and some would say 11, some would say 12, depending upon how you categorize things. But I think that probably aligns with what Southern New Hampshire is looking for.
And the other thing is the table of contents is all screwy,
It's
messed up.
it will be, because when you update the text in the body of it, it screws the whole table of contents up. So that's something that, once we reformat everything, get it where we want it. Yep, it'll be updated.
Anybody else? I was going to say that about I assumed that, because I had the same issue with the table of contents, but I assumed that it's just because it's still in editing mode. I just want to make sure, I think I know, but I want to make sure that the alignment of the courses that are dual enrollment, they're aligned with the Southern New Hampshire curriculum but there's no difference to a student's actual experience, whether they've paid the fee to Southern New Hampshire or whether they're...
Correct.
Right, there's no difference in their actual
Right.
learning or experience. It's just whether they're going to get
Correct.
submission to the... Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Anybody have anything else? What do you need from us this evening?
Your blessing, I guess.
Do you need a vote to approve, or is that what you're looking for, a vote to approve?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
that every year we just sort of look for the school committee to say it's good to go, so that, to give you a little bit of an idea of where we're at, right now, we would like to just get this approved, so that way we can, first of all, make this suitable for the public, but also start preparing Power School for scheduling. Believe it or not, we already have to think about that kind of stuff for next year, because once we get back from vacation, we're going to start talking with kids about that, and we need to have all that stuff in place, which includes having all of our new courses, listed out appropriately.
Thank you.
You want me to make a motion? I move that we accept the Hamilton Wenham Regional High School Program of Studies for the academic year 2026-2027 as presented.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. Is there any further discussion? Questions? All right, looks like we're ready to vote. All those in favor? That is unanimous of the 6 members present, and the motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next up is an update to our regional agreement process. As you know, we've been meeting with representatives from both towns to talk about the regional agreement, and I wanted to give you an update, but we got some new information today, I think. I'm going to turn it over to Eric for a second.
The big change we got today was the state Board of Education had made changes back in September to 603 CMR 41, which is the regulations related to regional schools, and there were some substantial changes made in those regulations, and I just want to touch upon a couple of the highlights. Several of the definitions were updated. The difference between expansion and enlargement used to be really tricky to figure out. Are you expanding your district? Are you enlarging your district? So they've now said that expansion is specific to grade levels. So if you're like Masco and you have just a few grade levels, you don't have them all, and you wanted to add more, that would be an expansion. And then enlargement is adding another municipality. So if you said, okay, we want to go from 2 to 3, it would be an enlargement. The membership, if you will, of or reorganization now triggers a reorganization conference with the Department of Education before anything can be said. So if somebody wants to come in or leave, there's a reorganization conference, and then there's also a fairly substantial report that will be now due to examine the impacts of the change on kids. There's some approval process changes that have been identified as streamlined. We haven't had to use them yet, but all regional agreements now need to be approved by the commissioner through the department. So they'll go and say that any amendment, if we made one amendment, we have to send it to the department, get that approved before it went to town meeting. So if we said we wanted to change the regional agreement and have it on the agenda for April town meeting, we need to get it to the department now and get their blessing before it would go in front of the voters. And then any reorganization, as I said, will be a long-range educational plan. You literally have to map out over the next several years how any change you make that's either changes the number of grades or changes the number of municipalities. So that has to be submitted before any of those conversations even begin. And then they're talking about assessments, and if your assessment is already outlined in your regional agreement, there's one in the law that says this is the way you would do it. So you can use the alternative method or the one in your regional agreement. We stick to the one in the regional agreement. That's what everybody knows and loves so well. which is what we do, the 3-year average to figure out the assessment. And then we are required to transmit our budgets, once it's adopted by the committee, within 30 days to, it's got to be certified by the treasurer and sent to the towns within 30 days. We do that every year anyway, as soon as it gets, because it still has to go to them before, I think, March 2nd meeting to be voted, to be on the warrant. So we're fine there. I'm not sure of the change, but they did add no later than April 30th. So there are a number of communities that will have to back up their budget process. And then fiscal oversight, there are some changes to the commissioner's authority, and that would have to do with really looking at a budget failure. So if your budget failed and you went back and adjusted it and it failed again, and you got to July 1st, the commissioner basically takes over the district's budget and does what they call a 1/12 budget. They budget you for 1 month at a time until you can come to some resolution within the community. So that they cleaned up how that reads and what the authority of the commissioner is. So just some changes. It's not dramatic for us. It's pretty straightforward, but while we're in this process of reviewing the regional agreement, if we do make changes, there are a couple of new things that we didn't anticipate that we now will have to do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions? Oh, look at that. All kinds of questions.
You said we had to now have reorganizations approved by the state before we do them.
Yes.
What do you mean by reorganizations?
So if you said, all right, I'm just going to make up an example. Topsfield's going to now become part of the regional district. Before you do that or start to make any agreements, you have to develop the long-range educational plan first, submit that to the state, get approval, and then move forward with the kind of the legal part of it with voting and things like that.
So it's adding a new town, it's not like reorganizing schools in the district?
No, you can, within the current, as long as you don't change the current structure, you can do anything within the current structure. If you change if we decided elementary schools are now going to be just located at the towns and we're only going to have a regional middle high school, we would have to submit that. But something like what we already have in place, we can reorganize within that.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen?
I was wondering, I guess this is a two-part question, if we know how long these new regs have been under development and if there's any sort of like contextual history as to why the state may have put them forth. Like, has this been confusion, or are they concerned there's going to be more regional districts and want to get ahead of some questions, or, things like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. They've been doing this since early 2025, and they did a similar process that they do all the time where they put it out to the public. They got 6 comments in the public, so, and the comments are pretty straightforward. So it was mostly they started it for clarity. There were a number of districts that were concerned about the possibility, because of the budget issues that are occurring, with either readjusting their district composure construction, or looking at it from the perspective of maybe this is a time when communities now want to either shrink or grow regional agreements. So I think this is kind of in anticipation to that. The changes aren't dramatic if you're already an established regional. If you're not and you want to, there's a couple more steps.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Eric, I don't know, but would you be willing to just send that so the whole committee has it?
Of course,
Just for some light reading.
So will these changes force us to actually update our regional agreement because it doesn't meet their standards?
I don't think so, but I'm not done going through comparing. I just got it this morning and started comparing, and just wanted to give you an update of the changes, but I started doing a little bit of comparison to see if because there is a note at the end of the email they sent. You might want to check with your attorney. So I'm just doing it now just to see if there are any impacts. It doesn't look like it, but I don't know if we do make some adjustments, what we'll have to do.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm not sure exactly how you meant the question. I think you're answering like, if we weren't to do anything, I don't think we would have to do anything, make any changes. However, I think my understanding is that if we do try to change any part of the regional agreement, my understanding, even before these changes, was that DESI will review the entirety of the agreement. So anything that is outdated, even if we didn't update it, at that point, we would probably be told. But it would be in the context of we're trying to change some part of this agreement. That's did that answer your question? too?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I can send you the email that I got from the state today. It's interesting, this thing was approved, I remember going through the minutes of the meeting back in September, it was September 30th. This was approved, and state finally got it out to the districts today. So, surprise.
Regional agreement is
It's
not a
slow.
fast-moving
Yes,
process.
regional agreement's a slow-moving train, very slow.
So thank you for that.
Yep.
When we originally put this agenda item on here, we really were just going to be giving an update on our regional agreement process and where we are, and then this came in today, and so it made sense to put it, to update you here. I just wanted to give, so we have been meeting, our last meeting was on December 3rd, I think. But I wanted to, at that meeting, so as you know, just to refresh, the main focus from the point of view of the committee, the main focus was two main things. One is to look at our election procedures and to align them with state law, or which has been mentioned as a real likely possibility, is that to request special legislation in order to align us with state law, so to get us in line. And the other one is the apportionment, and we've proposed, and we've talked about it here many times, is moving from a 3-year rolling average to a 5-year rolling average in our apportionment. So every year on October 1st, we get an enrollment, and it tells us how many students are from Hamilton and how many are from Wenham, and basically use that number to create percentages of the two towns. And so the committee is looking to move that to a 5-year rolling average to smooth out those curves. So I'm here today to sort of give you some updates and get some feedback. This is new information for all of you, so I'm not sure that we're looking for a vote. I'm sort of just looking for having some conversations. The select boards in both towns are going to have similar conversations. So one of the things that got proposed by the towns, to the two towns, is an interest in having a conversation about, or an interest in talking about a different election apportionment. So apportionment of us, not the apportionment of the money of us. So Hamilton Wenham is unique, and we are not the only district, but it's pretty unusual that we are all elected at large. That's pretty unusual. The towns are interested in having a conversation about whether we should be 3 from Hamilton, 3 from Wenham, and 1 person at large. I just want to make sure everyone understands what the proposal is. That is not what the school committee did not propose that. What we proposed was getting to make sure that our agreement was written in alignment with the way that we do things right now, which would be that everyone is elected at large in both towns, that those elections are for 3 years, and that those are held at the spring local elections. That's what we were proposing. So I actually have a very strong opinion, but I want to hear opinions and thoughts. And again, this is just a discussion. It's not and as like I said, the select boards are going to bring forth this. And also, there is no way to have this conversation in executive session. Even though it seems like it should be because we're negotiating, it's sort of strategy, but, and the select boards are under the same situation.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
So makes sense to make sure that there's representation from both towns on the committee, because you could run into a situation where the committee is made up of residents from just one town or the other. So that makes sense.
In theory, you could.
In theory. Would it make more sense to have the structure of the committee align with the apportionment of students? Which I know would be not perfect year over year, but.
So I'm going to answer that sort of by not answering it, but to say that this is coming from
Then it would
the towns.
change.
It would
This is-
change, yes.
No, but what I'm saying is, we proposed one thing.
Yeah,
They propose
They're
this.
proposing 3, 3, and 1.
okay.
So,
So you would need to ask
like,
them that
you might need to
question.
ask them that. Like,
Okay.
Is my point, is that like, yes, if you were sitting with the hat of the towns, I understand where that question is coming from.
Well, I guess my question too is, what do other,
So, yes, so.
I know we're unique in that we're a very
Yes,
small.
so
regional
typically, other communities, and I'm not an expert, but I have, like, other communities often don't have anyone at large at all. They just have it
Right.
apportioned based, like, it, like you would have, 3 from one town, 4 from another, or, whatever.
And based on the student
Based on
population.
population or whatever agreement they have, but
Okay.
yes.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Whether you're coming from Hamilton or coming from Wenham, this means that there will be at least 3 people, maybe 4 on the board that are representing you, but you didn't get to vote for them.
Correct.
That I don't like.
Right.
Interesting,
Exactly.
Yeah. So because like I said, I came in saying I have a very strong opinion, but I want other people to,
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
And also, what was their rationale that Wenham is going to favor Wenham and Hamilton's going to favor Hamilton? I first of all don't understand the rationale, but secondly, if everyone in the towns, from what I've heard and seen the signs, they want the school committee to represent the people, then that, I believe, like you just said, Jen, would really not represent the majority of people if I wasn't allowed to vote for 3 or 4 school committee members. So I completely agree. Because we make decisions for the region, for the district, and not for Wenham schools and Hamilton schools. So I'm opposed to that, so
That's true too, yeah, like, yes.
I think it disenfranchises the voters, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, well said, Julie. I have nothing to add, but I agree.
so, do you want to go?
I could say that I also agree that I think we're such a small region, and I think it's better for the committee to be accountable to everyone. And I also get concerned that this could create a Hamilton-Wenham dynamic that is not going to be helpful in the school committee fulfilling its mission.
Yeah, kind of an us versus them.
I think there's a risk of that. I'm not saying it would definitely happen, but I think it increases the risk of that happening.
And I think it's challenging because no single school serves a single community, right? And I just think it's, I don't know. Yeah, I would just love to understand the rationale. It seems to make it more complicated.
And then I am gonna, because I really do have some stuff to say, but I am gonna, I guess, a little bit, to be clear, I'm not sure what the rationale is for a change, but to be clear, what they're proposing is certainly not unheard of. It is, so I guess I want to give them that, that like it's, that there are other districts that do something similar. I've thought about this a lot, and I know I just kind of, well, I had mentioned it in negotiations, so for me, and this is what you all kind of were saying, but for me, having been elected by people in both communities, when someone sends me an email or asks to speak with me, it doesn't matter to me whether they like, I live in Hamilton, but it doesn't matter to me whether they live in Hamilton or whether they live in Wenham. I don't, and while as a human being, I don't know, I don't think that would change. The reality is that one of the things is the way we are structured right now, I am being held accountable by the people in both towns. So it would not be wise for me to not pay attention to, acknowledge, listen to, respond to a Wenham citizen, because, I mean, that's the way democracy works, right? Like, then you get held accountable by, so for me, as somebody was saying about it's creating a division where right now there isn't one. So I feel one of the things I've always felt passionately about is that Hamilton Wenham is a unique community in that I think we really are one community, even though we're two towns, which is a separate thought that I have about whether we should be two towns or not, but that is outside the four corners of this conversation.
When, or ham?
Ham.
You know what? Hamilton Wenham. Everyone says it anyway. Let's just, but anyway.
The other thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
kind of seems almost like an electoral college. Like, if we're going to make the board representative, we should make it representative based on population.
Right.
Because otherwise, you have like 3 or 4 people from Wenham representing 1/3 of Hamilton Wenham, and all the people coming from Hamilton representing 2/3 of the people in the
Right.
district.
Well, and that's what we have now. I mean, in other words, it shifts here, but but in other words, right now we have more Wenham people, right? So, right?
I'm Wenham. I'm Dave Frankel.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that we all have to sit here and say, I don't even know who's from Hamilton and Wenham is like, that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that we don't, so anyway,
I don't see a benefit to structuring it that way.
And it's interesting to me that they are looking at the one at large, which is interesting, because I think that's your point, like, it isn't.
It balances out the population imbalances maybe a little bit, arguably. Like,
Right, like that you're guaranteeing there's representation, and then it's potential that either town could have the majority. So,
oh, sorry, it's
Yeah,
a question. When we have our next quintuple board meeting, is this part of that meeting, or is that meeting
That's-
solely just on the budget?
it's really budget,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I'm going to just say, we don't need to talk about this forever. I was looking for feedback for when I go in to that meeting, looking for feedback to say
We don't like it.
that, in general, that
No, thank you.
the committee sees value in the at-large positions, all of us being elected at large. Thank you. Does anybody have anything else?
Thanks for the update.
The other part I just wanted to mention is that, in general, for a long time now, we've been talking about this apportionment moving from the 3-year to the 5-year rolling average. And in general, the feedback we've gotten almost universally is that it's generally a good idea. There's some concern about how you get there, like what the first, what the first couple years look like, how it gets there, transition. But in general, people are, I just want to express that there's some concern, and I think we're all aware that there's a buzz in the community around being concerned about what we're doing with the regional agreement, and that there is some concern that because this part of it, the apportionment part that I'm talking about now, about moving, that because it is to do with money and it is a financial part and it might have some impacts in the first couple of years, that there might be community resistance because it might not be fully appreciated and understood in the community. So the towns were just expressing some concern about bringing forward anything that's going to have any kind of a financial impact. So I just want to make you aware of that and sort of, our intent is that was what we put forward. I think we're going to continue to put that forward, that's what we want, but I just wanted to share that the towns kind of are acknowledging some concern about bringing forth.
That's more about accuracy, not,
I think the concern is about getting it passed, that.
oh, no, I know,
yeah.
but like, the financial piece is about financial accuracy, not about taking more money, right?
It's not about taking more money, but it would change, like, it would.
Who pays, yeah.
Right, and
I see what you're saying, yes.
It smooths out the
it
shift.
smooths out the shift.
Yep.
But it is a financial proposal, like it is,
Is it possible or legal to have like a transition period in the agreement? And I say this just because I draft this with bylaws sometimes where it's like if a board is moving from no term limit to no staggered terms to staggered terms, you can have a period where like for 2 or 3 years, sort of neither set of rules apply because we're in this transition zone where we're slowly morphing.
I don't know all the details, but I know that our current agreement definitely has transition language from things that have been, like, they're still in there and it needs to be removed, but it's
Yeah.
like transition language when they move from one thing to another, it'll say for year 1, this will happen, year 2, this will happen.
Yeah.
And then after that, this is the way it'll be. So I would say, yes, there are ways to have transition language.
To just like make, instead of it like instead of the graph being aggressive one way or another in year 1, just smooth it out over a couple fiscal years. you know?
So I think that's something that could be discussed and negotiated, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is what we put forward, to have it go in over a 2-year
Yep.
period. So the first year would be a 4-year calculation, then the next
Yeah.
year would be the full 5.
Yep,
Just to smooth it a little bit more.
yep.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions about that, or? All right, I'll continue to update you. Our next meeting is January 7th. I'll continue to update as we go. All right, so weirdly, you will see the irony in these next 2 things. This is, as near as I can figure, the only time that we ever vote based on what town you're living in. And I was like, I can't believe this is when this fell, that we're going to have it back to back. But, so, every 3 years, the Essex Tech School Committee has representatives from both Hamilton and Wenham. And the way that, and I want to just have shout out to Roger Smearage for helping me navigate this 3 years ago, and then doing a wonderful job by sending me our email chain from 3 years ago so that we didn't have to recreate it. I was very grateful for that. But basically, the way that this works is that the moderator of each town makes a recommendation for a citizen from that town to serve on the Essex Tech School Committee. And then we, the school committee, vote to approve that recommendation.
Okay.
You'll see that there are 2 here. The first one is from John Bucco from Wenham, and the second is William Lennon from Hamilton, and both are currently serving, though. So both are currently on the Essex Tech School Committee, and both have letters. You can see they're from Essex North Shore saying that they are, in good standing and valuable to the team. All right.
We need a motion?
Yeah, why don't we start with a motion, and then people can ask questions, because it is, all right, you live in Wenham, correct?
What?
You live in Wenham?
Yes.
Okay, so make this motion.
I can't make the Hamilton one?
I don't think so. Go
No,
ahead.
you can't.
That's weird. Vote, okay, sorry, vote. I move that we vote to reappoint John Bucco to the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School District.
Second.
All right, so that has been motioned and seconded, and this is a vote only of the Wenham
Can I
members.
amend that?
Yeah.
Just to say to the school committee, the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School District School Committee. I just don't know if it makes sense.
All good with that amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, friendly amendment by yourself. Okay. All right, so anybody have any questions? All right, so just Wenham, all those in favor? That is unanimous of the 3 Wenham School Committee members, and the motion passes. Okay, Megan, we don't want to do the honors?
Whoops. I move that we vote to reappoint William Lannon III to the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical Institute's School Committee.
Second.
Second by Amy Kungberger. Anybody have any questions or further discussion?
I do have a question.
Yep.
So this is not a letter from the town moderator, but we can appoint.
Eric?
So we didn't get a formal letter from the town moderator. We
Okay.
did get an email. I just didn't think it would be appropriate to post an email on the,
Oh, I see, okay.
so I do have an email in hand that he has recommended Mr. Lannon to the committee.
Great, thank you.
Bill Bowler has just sent an email instead of a formal letter.
Got it.
All right, any other questions? All right, looks like we're ready to vote. Only Hamilton people, all those in favor? And that is unanimous of the 3 members present, and the motion passes.
Congratulations to you both.
And thank you.
Yes, and thank you.
Yes,
That's a big school committee.
it is. Next up, and thank you to both of them for their service. Like,
Definitely.
that is, thank you for doing that work. It's important. So, we have a school committee conflict. If you will pull up your calendars to April 16th. So we are scheduled for a school committee meeting on April 16th. It is now Election Day in town, and I have been informed by the town clerk that that is not acceptable. We can't have a meeting on Election Day.
I see.
I learned that the hard way several years ago. So,
Can't have it the next week.
so what I would like to propose, no, is to look at either the 2 days before, either the 14th or the 15th, which are not our regular Thursday, but would allow us to have that meeting before the election.
Okay.
So I don't know whether anyone has thoughts on either the 14th or the 15th.
I teach Wednesday nights, so there's no way for me to
So
make a
Wednesday night is
Wednesday
not
night
great
meeting.
for you. What do people think about the 14th?
I can do either right now. I could do 14 or 15, so.
Feels
Megan?
really far away.
I can do
but
the
yes,
14th or 15th.
Eric, 14th is okay?
So why don't we do the 14th?
Either one,
Yep.
yeah.
14th?
All right, I would entertain a motion about the 14th if somebody has one.
I move that we move the school committee meeting scheduled for April 16th, 2026, to Tuesday, April 14th, 2026.
Second.
Second by Amy Kumberger. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? That is unanimous of the 6 members present, and the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Next to Eric is the NEC annual report.
Thank you. This is something we do annually. The annual report is a requirement to be shared with districts usually in the fall. Late fall is when they usually finish it up. So because I am a board member and we are a paid member of the NEC, we are asked to present the annual report to the committee for the public to know that it's available and out there, and just also because we are members of the NEC group, that it's a nice way to see what programs they have, what some of the things that they do highlight for kids. And you can see here, there's a list of all the schools that are involved in the consortium. Each of the superintendents and most of the surrounding schools are part of the consortium and on the board. There's over 20 of us on the board. And then they have a number of schools that are within their program that house different levels of needs. So there are kids that are medically fragile, for instance, so kids that we would not be able to keep in our school districts because we just don't have the logistics, the staffing, and things like that. So this program at the consortium really helps us to find places for kids who need more than we can give them within our classrooms. And it could be emotional, behavioral, combination of both, could be medical, really kids that have very specific needs. So this is a good opportunity for all of the communities to, as members, have a place to send kids. It's full in some time of the year, and other times it's not, so it's depending on what's available for space. But because we are members and there are more spaces available for member schools, and it's a reduced tuition for member schools as well, depending on the program kids go into. So this is a good option. I just felt it was good to show the annual report, just to make sure that everybody had a chance to see it publicly, and if there were any questions on it, I will do my best to answer it. The program is looking now, just so people are aware, they host the Recovery High School, which is it was created years ago to help with kids who are really having problems with drug and alcohol addiction in the high school level, who weren't making it at their home high schools. This program has kind of shrunk down over the years because there are more needs within more needs being met within the school districts now. So they're looking to rebrand it, if you will, and recreate the services that will be available. There are still lots of needs out there for kids, especially at the high school level, and that's one of the projects that we're working on as a board, to try to figure out how to rebrand that, put them in a different space, and try to serve more kids. And again, all of the tuitions kind of drive the health of the consortium over time. So certainly answer any questions, or just want everybody to be able to see it.
Just a question on the cost effectiveness, which is on page 22. It lists the NEC prices, and those are highlighted in blue. Are the ones listed below also NEC schools, or are they part of a different program?
Those
So
are
this is a cost
comparisons.
comparison.
The NEC comparisons, schools are in blue,
Yeah.
the teal, if you will, and these are other schools and what their tuitions they're charging.
Okay.
So
Just
for
making
example-
sure I was understanding.
Yep, you have it dead on, yep. NEC is in the bluish teal, I think, might be green. But it's colorized so that you can see the difference, just a comparison. They do save us money. We are also working with them on, you may remember from late last year, we were working on a transportation program with them. So we're doing transportation consolidation by working with 10 other districts. We're trying to say, okay, if we're driving a child from Hamilton to a particular program, we might be able to pick up a child from Ipswich on the way and save and split the cost in half. So NEC has been working with us on that as well, to try to save some transportation costs on the out-of-district transportation. We won't be able to know until a full year goes through how much that actually saved us, but it seems to be based on the combinations that they can do with kids. So instead of having a single kid being driven by a single driver, you can now have 2, 3, and even 4 in a van going to the same location, saving each of the districts a percentage of the overall cost. And some of these drives are $300 a day. So it gets pricey really quickly. Other questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is some budget.
Everybody's favorite.
Janelle print these for David? These all the exhibits for tonight?
Yeah, those are
Okay,
Take-
I might, because it's like for my.
Oh, yeah. No, help yourself, absolutely.
No, it's tape. You can also sit here.
I'll just move it. Oh, no. It's fine, I'll move it. It's okay.
Like a bad dream.
What that is.
You know, it's like. First day I taught was like that.
Yeah, it's good. Still won't come out.
Oh, I want more pictures.
It's all good, though, once you see the baby.
Okay, thank you for letting me speak tonight. Obviously, we are here to review our changes to the FY27 budget recommendation. On November 20th, you saw our preliminary budget. For this one, we're calling it our updated preliminary budget. Before we go through the exhibit, though, I'd like to just briefly go over the exhibits. Hopefully, I can get it on this screen. Coming over? Yes. I can't see it on mine. So the exhibits tonight I wanted to go over because I know it's a lot of information and a lot of them look the same. So I just wanted to give you a little bit more of an explanation other than just the word exhibit on the agenda. So when I look at it, it's really broken up into two different sections. You have your first section, which, let me try to expand this. So the first section is really where I compare our preliminary budget, which you saw on November 20th, to our updated budget that you see tonight. So the first exhibit is the detail by school and by DESI category of the changes to our gross expenditures. So in there, you'll see a change of roughly $430,000. That's the detail of all the changes, again, from what I presented tonight to what we presented in November to what we're seeing tonight. The second exhibit is just the summary of all those changes. So instead of it broken out by DESI, by school by DESI category, it's all just lumped into one slide on one chart so you can see the summary of it all. The second section, I tried to break it out from everything that has changed from our FY26 final approved budget, the budget we're in now, to our updated preliminary budget that you're going to see tonight. So the third exhibit is the full detail, again, by school, by DESI category. That'll break out the whole $2 million gross increase year over year instead of the reduction of $430 on the first exhibit. The fourth exhibit is the complete account detail of all of the changes from our FY26 final approved budget to tonight's update. That has the complete list of approximately 500 accounts and how you come up with the assessment and all of our revenues. And finally, the fifth exhibit is, again, a summary of all of those changes from our FY26 final approved budget to tonight's updated budget. So the reason I did this is really twofold. I know it's a lot of information and a lot of these presentations look the same, so I just wanted to point out that a lot of them are different. You really need to look at the title of the slide, look at the title of all the charts, and make sure you're comparing the same numbers. Sometimes you hear me talk about gross numbers, sometimes you hear me talk about net numbers, what are our assessments. All those numbers are different, and depending on which one you're talking about, you're taking in or adding in different numbers, so you really have to pay attention to the titles and what number we're actually focusing on. And the second reason is I get a lot of questions about the budget, and I realize that people are joining us at different times. So some people have been paying attention since November 20th. They spent a lot of time over the past month looking over our budget and recognizing what our growth is and where our reductions are. So they don't necessarily want to go through all that data again. So I just have the summary section and what has changed, which is that top section. But then we have other people that are just joining us today, and they don't really necessarily care about where we were a month ago. They just want to know where we are today. So I try to give it in two different formats. Those people who are just joining us and those people who have been with us and just want to know about the changes from the last presentation. So like my prior presentations, I'm not going to go in depth on the detail. I hope everyone got a chance to review the detailed presentation. I'm really just going to go into the summary and discuss the major differences between what we presented on November 20th and what's being updated for today. So in my mind, there's three major changes that we need to take into consideration for our updated preliminary budget. That's the recommended reduction in staffing that we'll go over shortly, the changes to our capital stabilization transfer amount, and our salary scale advancement. Just to start with an easy one, our salary scale advancement, which is the second one off to the left. For salary scale advancement, just to give a brief introduction to it, I'm sure you're very familiar with it. Teachers have the chance to submit for salary scale advancements, meaning they move along the salary schedule and advance their degree. With that comes additional salary compensation. So the deadline to submit for salary scale advancement is December 1st. So when we presented to you on November 20th, we really didn't know any of those numbers. We didn't gain all of them until December 1st. In total, we had 35 teachers submit for salary scale advancement. Out of those 35, 11 of them already submitted last year, but have not yet met the qualifications to advance. There's two deadlines for salary scale advancement. The first one is the first day of school. The second one is the midway point of the school, roughly January 30th. So 11 of those individuals who submitted this year also submitted last year, but didn't meet those qualifications on the first day of school. However, there's still an opportunity for them to meet it by January 30th. Because there's still an opportunity to meet it, I've already incorporated those additional salaries in the first iteration of the budget you saw. So those 11 people are already accounted for. Out of those 11 people, 6 of them resubmitted for next year. So they did it last year, they did it next year. Those 6 people, no matter what, will carry forward to the budget the whole time. The other 5 people, if they do not meet the qualifications by the second deadline, January 30th, they will be removed from the budget after that and reduce it after January 30th. It won't be a large amount. If all 5 of them don't meet it, it would probably be approximately $10,000. That would reduce the number, but we won't know that till February 1st or January 31st. Out of the other 24 people that remain, the total cost for their salary scale advancement added up to just under $100,000. So it was around $96,000 that got added in to our budget that we presented to you last week. Just so you guys make the connection, when somebody requests a salary scale advancement and they move along, obviously they now have a larger salary. If they were to receive a step increment after that, the dollar value now grows because every step, every column, your salary is growing. So if we have someone submit for a salary scale advancement, if it happens, their step increment increases and their COLA increases. So not only did their salary scale advancement change, but it also changed their step increment and their COLA. So both of those numbers here have changed. The main one is the step increment. The reason we do not see the COLA going up, and I don't know if this works, it's on the negative side, is related to the reductions we had. I'll get to those in a moment, but because we had some recommended reduction in staffing, that also reduces our COLA year over year. The net result of the salary scale advancement people advancing and the reductions going down, the COLA was a negative. Both of those numbers combined is a negative. That's why it's not on the other side. Nonetheless, it went up around just under $100,000. This is in similarity to last year. Last year's number, I believe, was $103,000, so it's in line with what we saw last year. Outside of everything else, that is our biggest increase when you compare our preliminary budget to tonight's updated budget. Does anyone have any questions about that? No? Okay, so the next biggest item, or the biggest item, is our capital stabilization fund transfer. If you remember, our original preliminary budget had a transfer request of approximately $100,000. For our updated preliminary budget, we in theory removed that $100,000 transfer and dedicated the remaining of it to offset E&D. So E&D, last week, I submitted to the state for certification. When I originally developed the preliminary budget, I knew the number I was putting in was a little bit low. I'm always conservative in my revenues, especially during the preliminary phase. As we advance through the budget process, we refine those and get a little more detailed. So I knew it was going to be low. I thought it was going to be low around $150,000 to $200,000 based on our prior year unspent on encumbrances. Nonetheless, it has not been certified, but the number I submitted was about $250,000 higher than our preliminary estimate. So we dedicated those additional $250,000 to direct E&D offset by expenses and categorize it as our capital stabilization transfer. So even though you see here tonight there's an increase of $216,000 for capital stabilization, we are recommending that that be directly funded through an E&D offset. So that does not increase our town assessments. It actually reduced our overall town assessments by roughly $53,000. So the end result tonight, we're able to reduce our overall net assessment by $600,000 while at the same time contributing $316,000 to our capital stabilization fund for FY27. I know that's a little confusing, the detailed presentation. I tried to do a step-by-step process so you could see what numbers changed there and how I came up with them. I can take any questions about it or just go on to my next items. I do know it was a little confusing. I kind of hit you on those. So again, even though here we are showing a total total gross expense change of $423,000, because our revenues increased by approximately $250,000, that net assessment to the town is a reduction of just under $700,000 compared to our original preliminary budget. Moving on to our reductions, for the moment I'm going to come back to the recommended staff reductions and just go over a few of the other items and then end with the staffing. So for our Essex County retirement appropriation, during our preliminary budget, I set our percentage increase exactly equal to what we received in '26. Our increase for FY26 was 10.98%. So for our FY27 preliminary, I set it exactly equal to that, 10.98%. Essex County Retirement is not legally obligated to give us our appropriation number until the first week in December. We've received that number, and it is a reduction of approximately $93,000. So that's good. Our Essex County appropriation is not decreasing this year, but it's decreasing compared to our preliminary estimate. That saved us, again, almost $93,000. The next item, and the next few items I'm going to discuss after last school committee meeting, Eric and I left with some direction from you guys. We weren't entirely clear on where we wanted to go, but we knew you wanted a lower number. So the first thing we did was try to avoid staffing. Obviously, that's the last place we want to go. So we really tried to focus on things that don't have direct instructional contact with children, and obviously avoid any new additions that we might have asked for in 27. The only new addition we asked for in 27 was the .44 elementary special education coordinator. We have a late retirement, and the idea here was to get somebody in on day one so they can get familiar with the students, and we can get a highly qualified candidate. If you wait till halfway through the year to hire someone, you might not get the most qualified candidate, so we had a request to bring somebody in day one. As we are going through reductions and looking at where we might be able to reduce expenses, that is one area we focused on. That is an additional, not to say an additional full staff member, it is only a .44, but is an additional member that we don't have today. So we didn't want to eliminate a position that exists today before we eliminated a position that does not exist today. Does that make sense? So that's where we went first. That was approximately $57,000. From there, I received 4 notices for retirement. Again, based on our teachers' collective bargaining agreement, they have a deadline of December 1st to notify us for retirements. We received 4 retirement notifications. Out of those 4, one of them is a highly specialized position that we did not reduce the salary for. The remaining 3 we did. Because we confidently feel like those other 3 positions, we can hire somebody at a lower salary than the retiring individual. So those 3 salaries that are incorporated here lowered the budget by approximately $54,000. From there, we really struggled on where to go from there. One of the things we looked at, I'm sorry it's not showing up on my screen, is athletic user fees. So for athletic user fees, our preliminary budget incorporated a split between the student and the district of 55% to 45%. So the district contributes 55% of the athletic user fee and the student 45%. Part of our reduction process, we are moving that down 5%, so it's an even 50-50 split. That result of the 5% reduction lowered our budget by $32,000. This lowers the district budget, but I really want to point out it also lowers families' budgets. So now instead of the district paying part of that fee, this is going directly to parents, directly to athletes to now cover that additional $32,000. Because we have lower retirements this year, we were able to lower our sick day buyback. Teachers only receive sick day buyback when they go to retire. Last year, I believe we had 7 eligible teachers for sick day buyback. This year, we only have 4. So we were able to reduce our overall sick day buyback pool by approximately $22,000. The next few items revolved around late buses. So right now, we have 2 late buses at the secondary level. One services the town of Wenham, one services the town of Hamilton. Each one of those buses costs roughly $33,000 a year. So we've recommended to reduce that down to 1 and have 1 late bus service both communities. Being fully transparent, one thing that will cause is obviously a longer bus ride. You now have 1 bus that's going to travel around the majority of both communities, which will result in a longer time, but again, we are trying to stay away from direct instruction before we eliminate everything. Most of these other items here are self-explanatory. It's weight room leadership and reductions to professional development, again, trying to stay away from the classroom. If you look at that list, it really didn't get us very far. It's only about $200,000 outside of staff that we were able to focus in on. The only other place to go, as you saw in our presentation, is staffing. It represents almost 60% of our overall budget. So right now, to get to what we thought your recommendation was last week, we've incorporated about 7 FTEs as a reduction for FY27. If you look at the detailed presentation, we try to spread it across the entire district. At the moment, and this might change before the final, we are estimating a total of 5 at the secondary level and 2 at the elementary level. I'm using an average salary of about $60,000. So how I came up with that is I took all of our non-professional status teachers and came up with an average cost for their salaries and used that as our baseline for what our FTE, what our overall salary reductions would be. As we work through this process and we identify actual positions, which we have not entirely done, we have ideas where the positions might be, but we have not identified actual positions at the moment. Once we do that, that number may change once we get into actual salary figures and see where those individuals actually are on the salary schedule. But at the moment, we're anticipating, again, a reduction overall of 7.44 FTEs if you include the 0.44. Just talking about the 7 FTEs, it's a reduction of just under 420,000. Again, all of these additions and reductions combined, although our gross number is only dropping by 423, our overall net assessment is dropping about 690,000. That is where we sit for our updated preliminary budget. Tonight, we really want to gather what you guys think about this and kind of what direction we want to go from here. Our next meeting, you will be voting on the tentative budget. After that, there is only, I believe, one other meeting before the final budget. So it would be greatly appreciated to gather your thoughts on what we have here tonight for our reductions and what path forward you would like us to take. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you.
If you-
Yeah, I was going to say, let's start, if people are okay, let's start with questions first, and then it sounds like questions, and then you want opinions. Right? You want both, but let's do questions first.
I forgot my question. Never mind.
Okay?
My question is, I mean, in capital finance, you showed us what that reduction would mean to the towns, to the percentage. Is that in one of the exhibits that I've missed?
Yes.
I have copies right there if you would like them.
Okay, because that's something I just think the towns would be
Yep, okay.
interested in.
Yeah, it's,
I got it.
And it was 9 point something.
9.81 and 7.9, 9.81.
9.87, I
It
think.
is in the exhibit number 4, I believe,
number
but
four.
I printed
9.97
out a
and
copy.
7.98.
Okay. Because I think when we were talking in the school committee meeting last week, we were trying to keep the assessments under double
Double
digits for the towns.
Yes, this accomplished that.
Okay.
It's
That was my
Wenham,
question.
and they're sitting at about 9.97, I believe, for their
Thank you.
overall operating.
I
When
see
you
it.
factor in both their operating debt, I believe it's 9.8.
9.87, yeah.
I remember my question.
Yeah.
So what's the effect of losing 7 teachers on class sizes? Do we know?
It's a great question. I don't think it would affect class sizes.
Okay.
You know, we can't assume they're all teaching positions because there are so many different positions within the district. Just even within the union contract, nurses, counselors, some of our staff that's not directly working with kids in classrooms. So there's a wide span, so it would depend on where we could. We talked about restructuring some of the things where, you know, we've kind of morphed our MTSS program as we've moved along and gotten better and gotten more efficient, so there's probably room in there somewhere, but it would not, like, if you look at Bucher, I take for an example, you would not lose a classroom teacher in Bucher. We're trying to look at it from the perspective of preserving what's going on directly with students face to face, day to day.
Thank you.
Other questions? Then we're going to move on to thoughts and opinions. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have one more, or one question. Do we have any updated information from the towns as to where they are in their budget process as their numbers shake out?
We do. So if you remember last week, I presented a number, I think it was $1 million reduction for Wenham. That's what they were requesting, which would equal a $3 million overall reduction because it's 2 to 1. Wenham has looked at it. They've made some reductions. We showed them this as well yesterday. And I think they've kind of gotten to the point where they're going to probably need an override no matter what. That's the feeling I got from yesterday's meeting, although not finalized. Nobody's budgets are finalized, so I don't want to raise any
Right.
flags too early, but that's the feeling I got. Hamilton, we did not have the town manager or a select board member in the meeting, but the sense we got is they're not 100% sure. The number that we originally got was to reduce 1.4 million, and they felt like they could manage that. So from the original budget presentation, I still think we're in that range, that $1.5 million range, to keep them from any sort of an override, but they have also announced, new receipts, if you will, from the Gordon Conwell deal that was just completed that immediately put $100,000 into their coffers. It's supposed to be, I think, over time, $500,000 total, plus the increased revenues from taxation. So there may be an opportunity there, but I don't think they've ironed that all the way out. And I know Joe was unable to be at the meeting yesterday, but my last conversation with him was last Friday. So I just don't think they're there yet. They're both targeting mid-January to have their final numbers, which gives us, it's good and bad where we're sitting on kind of still guessing, but I still think the magic number is going to be 1.5 on the Hamilton side, which would reflect to a third, half of that to be the Wenham reduction. So I don't know that this would do it for either town.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, how about feedback?
I mean, this hurts. Like, I wish we could fund everything, but we also don't want the state to take over and give us a 1-month budget at a time if it doesn't pass.
Well, thank you.
Other people?
I mean, I just have to reiterate that once again, the neediest students or people that need the most services, it seems like, are going to, get the short end of the stick with the late bus elimination, increasing the athletic user fees. It just seems like I just wanted to highlight that, but I don't personally see where we can go, because obviously if the late bus elimination means a staff member stays, then what are you going to do? So I don't like the 7 FTEs. I wish that actually would entirely go away, but I'm just not sure how we can show the towns that we're cutting the budget in good faith, but explain budget cuts mean actual people losing their jobs and actual services being disrupted. Because I don't know. I know that people in theory understand that, but I don't know if they really do see the effect of these budget cuts. So, I don't know.
Can I just throw one caveat in there for those 7 FTEs? Don't forget, we use a round number of 50,000. It's roughly 60, but we have to subtract for unemployment, so because we have to pay that out. So it's less than 60. So we use that as a round number. And when you look at that round number, if you had a singleton position in a I'm not going to use anybody's position because people freak out, but if you had a person who is the only person that does this job in the district and they were the person being reduced, generally they're probably paid in the $80,000-$90,000 range, maybe $100,000 range. So that would be a higher cut, reducing the number of FTEs that way. You know what I mean? Because remember, the FTEs are planned around $60,000 each for those 7 FTEs. So it depends on where the cut comes from, the reduction comes from. It's not necessarily like it's exactly $418,000. Thank you. I took my glasses off. $418,000 because it could be dependent on the positions that are removed.
Okay.
It could be less.
I want to speak to something similar to what Julia said. I've thought a lot about the late bus and the athletic user fees. I come down a little bit differently in that I really feel okay about the late bus. I feel like I'm okay. I would not be okay with eliminating the late bus altogether because I think it speaks that the kids who need it the most, and it needs to be there, and I think it's important, and I'm okay with it being one bus for the 2 towns and it taking a little bit longer. Like, that feels okay to me.
But I also, sorry, I didn't want to mean to insinuate, first of all, that the late bus is not for everybody.
No,
right?
it is for everybody.
Yeah, but then now I
Yeah.
don't want that to come across.
Yeah.
But, for people whose parents work and.
Right, no, I'm actually agreeing with you that, like.
Right, I feel like I insinuated that and
Yeah.
I didn't need to.
So I feel comfortable with and like, it's okay for us to have difference. I feel comfortable with the late bus, to cutting it down to 1. I do want to speak to the athletic user fees. It is, as Vinnie noted, it is a small, relative to the whole amount here, is not a ton of money, but I am not comfortable changing. I feel like it's going back on a promise. I feel like we have tried and stated that a goal is to continue to try to reduce the amount that families have to pay. I think there should be no user fees at all. I think kids should be able to participate in sports, in the musical, in whatever, all this. We talk in this district, we talk about the second day of school, this after school, and it's real. That being said, I'm okay with keeping our athletic user fees where it is, with holding steady, but I'm not okay putting more of the weight back to the parents. So even though it's not a big chunk, that's my feedback on that. Like everyone else, I think everyone feels the same way about staff reductions. Of course, of course it's not what anyone wants, but I think this is what, at least for me, when we were saying this is what we want to see, we want to understand how to reduce this budget in a meaningful way so that we can show the taxpayers that we are doing that. This is somewhat what I expected, and I feel, I think it's the right thing to do. That's not an easy thing to say, but that's what I'm saying. That's my feedback. Other people?
I just want to say I appreciate this breakdown and the level of detail that you gave us about how you found all these categories or all these lines. And just to agree, like, the 7 FTE it bothers me. It's hard to think about people losing their job, people losing certain parts of their day, and it's hard too because I don't want to know exactly like what positions they are, but it's hard to say. I'm sure every single one of those positions are important, so it's hard to say like whether. I guess it doesn't matter which positions they are. So I just want to acknowledge that it's really difficult. And I feel, so you were talking about the athletic user fees, and last meeting I said something about like, it wasn't about the user fees, it was about, I think the retirement, paying the retirement, thank you, where we were, we had made strides, like since the time I've been here, those were two things that we had made strides on, so it kind of hurts to slide backwards. I would rather see a slide back in athletic user fees than, if that saves one more person's job personally. But I definitely understand what you're saying about how, like, that's such an important thing, and we made a big leap there. So this was not helpful at all, what I said, but I just wanted to acknowledge all of that.
I have a question, kind of relating to our conversation earlier about the regional agreement and its approval processes and the change in the funding formula. Am I correct in understanding that there's not going to be any change in the apportionment formula for this budget cycle?
That's correct.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
yes,
so it
yes.
would be for next year?
Correct.
Okay.
At the earliest.
Or
At the
even
early- yeah,
a future
yeah,
year.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
or,
at the
okay,
earliest,
yep.
yeah.
So not for this year, okay.
Anybody else? To Vinnie's point, this is kind of our,
This is your moment.
This is the moment
to recommend
because-
changes. Normally, we do not change much after the tentative. Obviously, you can change whatever you want all the way up into the final, but it only gives you one opportunity to see your change after the tentative. So now would kind of be the time if you feel like this is the number you almost want to move forward with to town meeting, or?
Can I just add
Yep.
something? Sorry, I think it's important to add something from yesterday's five chairs meeting. The conversation we had where we were talking about override in both scenarios, I think it was Ben Timon that made the comment, like, the one thing he was concerned about is that everybody's, quote, doing their part to reduce the amount of override if that were the case. And I think that's an important thing for us to remember. If this goes to the towns for an override, it's 4 votes. If it fails, then what happens? Then we go back. We have 30 days to go back and review the budget, make changes or not. You don't necessarily have to. There's nothing that says you have to make any changes, but you do have to go back and, quote, review it. And then within a 45-day window from that second final vote, you need to bring it back to the towns for another vote. So timing is very tight if it gets to that point in the conversation. I just worry about, is this enough to say, hey, we are doing our part, if you will, because I think no matter what, in Wenham, I think they're going to end up in an override situation. I cannot nail down Hamilton yet, but I'm guessing if we're here, we probably are in both communities, but I just want people to be aware of the process. I'm not sure everybody understands what the process is.
Well, when will we know that? Because, that's kind of what we were talking about, like, if we can get out of override territory, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
But without that information, how are we supposed to make a decision?
Right.
Right, and I think it's really challenging, like, especially we're talking about potentially, it feels like everybody said this, we've looked at everything we can, except for now additional staff cuts, and that's a very difficult decision to make if we're not even operating with both sides of the information. That's
Yeah.
really difficult decision to make at this point, I feel like.
Yeah.
Frustrating. It's frustrating because the last meeting, what it seemed like was if we didn't cut $1 million for Wenham and maybe $2 million for Hamilton, no matter what, we would go and override, right? So that was the information we were operating from. And now it sounds like it's actually completely different. But so I guess like I'm, as I said last time, and I've said in capital finance, and I've said before, I'm okay with pushing for an override. Because we can't cut $3 million from this budget. But if it's something where we cut $45,000 more, I mean, that's really important information to have. So I know it's not either of your fault, but I feel like that, to me, would be.
Right, if we're that
close,
right,
are we
and
close? Are we way off?
I don't
Like-
think we know. I mean,
Okay.
I don't, and it's nerve-wracking because I don't want to speak for the towns and we don't know, but it was even in the paper. I mean, Wenham is looking likely at an override. That,
Yeah.
regardless. But I think your point is a good one. It would be good to know if it was a razor-thin thing, like, oh.
Or is it like $1 million more?
Right,
Yeah.
but if it's like, if you cut $20,000 more, then Hamilton doesn't need an override, that might be good information for us, but I think we're not gonna know that.
Right. And the overall question, yeah.
Right,
that
so
Eric
I guess
asked
the
is-
question here is to acknowledge that this is significant from the preliminary budget, and the most significant part of what is occurring here is that, it has a 7 FTE staff reduction on it, and that's real, that, but I think what Eric was talking about the town, sort of saying that in order to present an override, that the idea is that the towns will need to see that, like, they're having to make difficult decisions, that we are also having to make difficult decisions, that, so I don't know what that number is, like whether they're going to feel like 7 FTEs is sufficient, but I think it's meaningful. I also think, overall, our enrollment, if I recall correctly, our enrollment increased by 37 students. So to say we have an increase in enrollment of 37 students and a 7 FTE reduction in staff, to me, says to the towns
Right, that's worth,
that, this is significant, that we are making sacrifices. That's...
Yeah, and those are definitely things you want to highlight along the way, as we continue these conversations.
That's significant.
I think, the conversation that we've had with the towns and the numbers they come forward with, I think you're probably leaning into override on both sides. But Wenham made it very clear that they're looking at an override. I think no matter, even if we came down to cut $1 million or $1.5 million, I think they're still in that position. Hamilton, not so sure. If we cut $1.5 million, would that put Hamilton under an override? Possibly. I just don't know the final of their revenue situation, because they do have monies coming in from Gordon Conwell. They also have revenues coming in from the shift of the 911 to centralize it. So.
So, to be clear, you all have free will. You can do whatever you want. But I guess I'd be interested in hearing if anyone is feeling like, absolutely, yes, this should be, or absolutely no, this is not what I want at all. I think it would be important information to provide that to Vinnie, so that, or if you're looking at this and saying, this isn't anywhere near enough cuts, you need to cut more. I think that's, and again, it's your choice whether to speak or not. I'm just sort of encouraging you that, if you're feeling like that, I'm thinking that would be helpful to the administration to know.
I'll be honest, I have concerns about this. It is a 9.9% increase to Wenham. Do you anticipate that will pass?
I think it's going to be a tough sell.
If this is
It's
what we
gonna be
push
a tough
forward,
sell.
I think from both Eric and I, we would really need your help to get out into the community and spread the word about the budget.
And,
Because this will be difficult.
yes. And,
Both sides. I mean, I think Hamilton, if we stay here at this point, it'll be difficult.
yeah.
It'll be a lot of work ahead of all of us to be able to make sure people understand the impacts. But Vinny and I have talked a lot about this. We don't think this is enough. When you start saying, okay, what kind of work did the towns do to reduce their budgets? What kind of work did the school district do to reduce their budgets? I think because they perceive us as such a big chunk of their budget, this would probably be to them like, okay,
Well, we
cut, but it's not.
we are a big chunk of their
Yeah, well,
budget. I mean, that's,
absolutely,
and
Big chunk of
while
every
I think,
community's budget.
right, and while I think we and the elected officials in the town do understand that these percentages, I think we all understand about the E&D and what happened last year and why these percentages look the way they do. It's really hard to communicate about
Yeah.
why. So if we're looking for more, I'm assuming the only place is more staff. I mean, you aren't presenting any other,
That was my question.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. We could get revenues. I mean, we generally get small amounts, like Medicare is one of the, but it's not a lot of money.
Right.
And across the district, I think we have $80,000 in Medicare revenues, approximately. So it's not like a huge number. We just estimate based on the year previous. So numbers will change into January, but not dramatically.
so how many, to Jen's point, is the next staff cut the one that causes our class sizes to change?
It depends where you cut from. It honestly depends on where you cut from. If you look at, it's going to impact kids because you're looking at supports, not necessarily a classroom teacher, but it could be some support personnel. It could be some programmatic personnel. So it's hard to say. It's really, when we looked at it from this perspective, and again, I said it last meeting, I don't want to rattle the staff, but they're rattled. They know, they see this is coming. So we're trying to be delicate about making any grand announcements anywhere, but we would, again, try to stay away from classrooms. We really think the district and the people who move here for the schools enjoy the smaller class sizes. There'd be a dramatic shift in some class sizes. I mean, we took, out of those 7, 3 of those are lean towards the high school because we know there's a little bit of room there in their class sizes when you look at their overall, go back to the enrollment reports and start to look at the enrollment reports. What does that look like? But if you go 10, 12, 14, you're going to get into places that affect the kids pretty quickly.
I guess I have a question for my fellow Wenhamites. This is the most we've ever split between Hamilton and Wenham in a meeting ever in my existence. What percentage do you think would be palatable? Other than 0.
Well, I think there are so many different constituencies, right? I mean, there are people that probably wish they could pay everything the district needs,
Yeah.
and they just don't have the household budget to do it. There are seniors who are on a fixed income and want to stay in the community and can't downsize in the community and are not against the school but can't pay more, And then I also think that there are other families that would be willing to pay a lot more, that they think of it as a good value for what they're getting for their taxes. I mean, I wish that we had other levers at our disposal, like, real estate circuit breaker provisions and things like that exist in other municipalities that we don't have, at least not yet, in Wenham. And I think that this is just a hard economic environment. Beverly's looking at a deficit. I've seen in the news like Linfield, Stoneham. I mean, this isn't just a Hamilton-Wenham problem right now. I think between inflation, Chapter 70, Proposition 2.5, I mean, you have all of these intersecting challenges, right, at the same time. I don't know. I mean, I think that there's definitely a group of people that have lived in Wenham for a long time and remember years of successive overrides and all these issues. And I think the challenge in this moment will be to evaluate this on its merits and not like, well, this happened before. And, I think sometimes it can be really hard in Wenham, and maybe in Hamilton, but I don't know. I'm more of a Wenham person, I guess, to leave the past in the past, to really say like, yes, maybe 20 years ago, there were problems in the district, or we did have many years of successive overrides, but this year, this is for a different reason, So.
Yeah,
No, I saying you remember the successive overrides.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think there's, for lack of a better term, some like muscle memory resistance against override because, that's happening again. And I think, yes, the override is happening again, but not for the same reasons
Yeah.
that it happened before. So, and that'll be hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so people are aware, Wenham actually gave us an approximate number. They were trying to get their increase at around 4% and ours at about 4.1%. That was what our conversation was regarding, like, okay, what's the number? We didn't get that same number from Hamilton, but Wenham was, they were hoping 4%, they could probably keep it under, but that's a $600,000 increase, which is, again, cutting $1.2 million out of just
Out
the
of-
Wenham side, which would reflect
Right.
huge.
Right.
Vinny, I don't know, maybe I don't know if I don't know how to frame the question. Let me take a moment. No, I think what Kristen said is important about just thinking about it is a really diverse number of reasons that people could have for being either for or against. It's very important to remember that there's not just one reason,
Right.
and I think that everything you said applies to both towns. There's nothing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Jen?
What would happen if we just didn't replace you said there were 3 teachers retiring? Like if we
That's
just
correct.
didn't hire somebody new?
I don't think that's feasible in some of them. You have like a third grade teacher where there's already a bubble at the school. It would make
my
your
question.
class size enormous. For that one instance, I'd
Yeah.
have to look at what the other ones
Third grade's
are.
a good example when you start to look at it from what building the teacher retires in. Now, if you say, all right, we're not going to add that, you're down one, quote, third grade, those kids who need to go somewhere, they can't necessarily be split up in that building. They might have to go to another building, which would be weird to say, okay, we're going to take one
That would be
classroom
hard.
of third graders and spread them out in Bucher and Cutler. So that's what we were talking about. I think in capital, we might have talked about that, like what does that restructuring look like when you put grade levels in each building, like pre-KK here, 1, 2, 3 at Cutler, or 4, 5 at Winthrop. This is just random numbers, but something like that allows you more flexibility, but you're still going to bump your class sizes up because we do have bubbles in many of our, so we have 7, and we have some pretty good, numbers in some of our classes. You'll be looking at going from an average of 19 to an average of 23 or 4 at your elementary level.
I was just thinking if we did have to replace staff, the people who are retiring are obviously at the higher end of the scale.
Correct.
So if we didn't replace those 3, we're saving more money than if we got rid of 3 towards the bottom.
Yeah, but we look at it like there's a number in there, there's a savings number of $54,377, which is basically taking those top salaries of, if I'm retiring at 90, we would say to the principals, you got to bring somebody in below master's 5 is generally the target we give them. So that's what we come up with, that $54,377 number.
Yep.
Sometimes we have to be careful with that because a specialty position like a school psychologist they're super educated, so they come in high on the salary scale automatic, and yeah, those are problems. So it really depends on who's not coming back and who's retiring. You know, if somebody's retiring as their classroom teacher and they're at the top scale, we're pretty good there. It really depends. SLP or hard to hire positions like a physics teacher, you got to keep your doors wide open because, you know, currently in the state, physics is a great example. There's not enough physics teachers for the high schools in the state. So we're fortunate to have one, and those are things you want to hold on to, you know.
So, this is, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to phrase this question accurately, but if I'm looking at the top line of everything, our operating overview, the change year over year is 5.93%.
Correct. That's gross.
Right.
Gross.
Yeah, no, I know. So, I mean, I know it gets, like, I want to sort of think about, I'm trying to think about a way to think about the E&D and the way that, and this is really more about messaging, I guess, like that, like the increase, I don't know. I don't know, that's more of a messaging question. My other sort of kind of question is, I guess, yeah, I wish we had sort of another step in between, because on some level, yeah, I'd like to see what it looks like to try to pare this down maybe a little bit more. At the same time, I'm hesitant to say, go and do that, because the next thing we're seeing is a tentative budget that we're going to vote on. But I guess I'm torn, because I agree that from a town perspective, it's you know, especially when you're in that 9.9% increase, which again is really because part of it, a major part of it, is because of what we adjusted last year. But I don't know. I guess I'm torn, because in some ways I see that making some deeper cuts, showing a good faith effort to the towns, showing the people that we are really tightening our belts and really making some difficult decisions to lower those percentages, seems like the right thing to do. At the same time, I'm sort of scared about any override. I'm fearful that any override might not pass. And I don't know that reducing that percentage, you know, a small, I don't know that that's going to get us where we need. I don't, in other words, I don't know what the magic number is, but I sort of think that the biggest hurdle is people being willing to vote for an override. And then the secondary hurdle is, how big is that override? I'm
with that.
Right.
So, yeah, I think we should try to make it as low as we can. And I guess I would like to see what that looks like to be lower than this, but I don't think it's reasonable to try to pair it, I don't know, again.
We're also going to be trying to get the roof through, too.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
that's 5.8 million.
Yep.
And I do think for people that are hoping that there would be some sort of, for lack of a better term, progress on school renovations and things like that. I mean, that hasn't even really, beyond the community conversations that are in the works, really is not even on the radar for this budget cycle.
No.
You know? When we have a tentative budget, as a new person, I just want to make sure I understand. So we vote to approve a tentative budget at our next meeting?
Yes.
And then that goes to the towns?
Yes, the tentative number goes to the towns, but
Right.
you can still
But
adjust.
we don't, right, they go, that's, right.
We
I'm sorry.
send the number to them,
Yep.
at least notifying them that kind of this is the number that we're generally going to be in by our final budget. But there
Okay.
is still, then we meet with the town with
We
the
have that
full
quintuple board
on
meeting.
January 20th, I think.
Yeah.
And then you vote the final, I think, at the meeting after that.
So are we not likely to have a full picture of the town budgets until that quintuple board meeting as well? I mean, are we all sort of triangulating around each other? Like if Wenham cuts its municipal budget, are they concerned we raise our budget? You know, are we all sort of trying to kind of balance like all the competing needs of everything, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had conversations just with the town manager, town administrator, their business managers about trash.
Right.
You know, how they're moving money around to cover the huge increase in their trash expenses, which just seems to be a bigger number in Wenham. It's sounds quite pricey in Wenham, but the insurance is the other thing. We usually see the towns go up almost double what ours is. They're at the like 18, 19, 20% increases. So they're
For
trying
health
to balance.
insurance?
Their health insurance, yeah. So they're trying, and smaller numbers of people, but still, it's a big jump on your budget. And I think that's part of the conversation where the three entities are trying to find that balance, like what's the dance you do to make the pieces fit. I think Wenham has conceded that it's not going to work this year because, you know, they're in a tight situation, even before you start to add in any increases from the school side. The Hamilton side has been a little harder to get a look at. They've told us about new revenues and things like that, just not, you know, the number that we were given, that 1.4 million. That's,
Right.
you know, that's, remember, was it 2 years ago when they said cut $1 million? And we were all sitting in the same meeting, so I'm not sure yet on Hamilton. It's
Yeah,
hard to
that's
make
fair.
this
Yeah.
decision right now to say, you know, Hamilton needs to be at this number to not to be an override. That's not, and they're saying mid-January by the time they get their numbers. That's what they told us yesterday.
I somewhat agree with Dana that the biggest obstacle is just the psychological idea of the override, and that the actual amount of it, within reason, is less material, because I think the amount, everyone's question will be, well, what is that for me? So I think until you kind of know how that filters through to your individual tax bill, it's hard to make a decision on that almost, I think, if you're just a voter, because it's like, well, how, you know, oh, if I'm just making these numbers up because I have no idea, but it's like, oh, well, for another $300 a year, I could just keep all this, and I would be like, sure, you know, I mean, it's really hard
Right,
to
and there's a big
know.
difference between it, right, being, it could be 10 times that. and then
Exactly, and it's like,
a
well, for
whole different-
$3,000 a year, maybe we can't do that,
Right,
like, you know, so I think
exactly.
it's a kind of a very abstract question that I think, and that's kind of why I'm wondering, and I know the town of Wenham, at least with the school consolidation and other things, they have really tried to sort of break it down for people of like, if your house is valued at this means roughly this for your tax bill, and I think that's kind of, that's the question, it's like,
And I do think that would all happen, but you're right, it happens after.
right.
And so,
And then we have to sell it, sell it to everybody.
Not, the hard thing about the quote override number is, even though you're handing, say, okay, when I think it's 1.29 million is the increase, they may still be able to absorb some of that money.
Right.
So the override's not the full 1.2, it's,
Could be 900 or something.
right, it just
Yeah.
depends on where their cut off is for the override.
right, well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because obviously, they always would anticipate some I mean, in other words, there's always an increase, right? It's just how much of that, so the whole 1.2 is not,
Well, and a lot will depend on whether the towns roll the school budget into their regular budget. Because sometimes they do, and it really, it can, like you said, reduce the percentage. But if they don't, we're looking at the
I think they typically put it separately, I think.
the last couple of years, they've rolled it in, at least in Wenham,
Yeah.
because we haven't asked for overrides.
In 21, I think Wenham had one.
You had, Wenham had one in
700.
21, yeah.
Remember, we were.
So, I mean, I don't know how helpful I mean, like, now I'm looking at not this page, but the superintendent's updated budget recommendation, combined operating and debt service town assessments, both inside and outside. It's the one that's got Hamilton and then Wenham and then the total. And that was where we were just talking about the 1.2 is Wenham's portion, and the overall combined assessment, including everything, and including the debt service and all that, is 8.56. And I guess I sort of feel like maybe we should, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I guess we're trying to do all these things to look at each different thing individually, and maybe we should just be looking overall and saying like, okay, you know, that's the combined assessment there. It's an 8.56% increase. I don't know what that increase would have been if we hadn't used the E&D last year. But I don't know.
Be about 5.5%.
Well, and that was going to be my point, is that like, we did that, everybody knew we were doing that, the select boards, we knew that, and if I want to look at it and say like, okay, we'd be at 5.5, maybe we're hearing that they're shooting for more like 4 or 4.5, so maybe this needs to be a percentage point lower. I don't know if that's true. I'm just trying to like think about it in a not like, oh my gosh, it's 8.5%, because we knew that it was going to be very high when we used the E&D.
7.5% is going to be better, like in people's minds.
Well, this is what I'm saying is that I think I actually think that Kristen's point, there's a whole diversity of people we don't know. Everybody's going to have a different point of view, but I do think that the elected officials that have been on this journey with us all along and knew what was going on with the E&D and understood, it might make a difference, I think, for them. And it's important, to Vinnie's point, about us and other elected officials communicating to the public.
Oh, that's a fair point. And actually, Dana, when you put it that way, and when we use the combined number, I mean, 8.56%, right, that's the roughly $3.3 million. That's roughly the entire operational budget for Bucher. And when you put it in terms like that, right, if we put it in terms like that, where we're saying we want no override at all, then say goodbye to all of, for like just hypothetical scenario, but that dollar amount is equivalent to this entire school going away. And so I think when you combine it and you talk about it in those terms, to me, that's kind of a scary prospect to think about. If that's what, if taxpayers, right, some taxpayers want no override at all, that's what it would take to get there. And that's a really hard pill to swallow.
Right.
I think
But no override doesn't mean no increase. In other words, some amount of increase can be absorbed.
But what I'm saying is like,
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I get it, I know.
I think like that kind of high-level messaging is good, because I don't feel as worried about all the elected officials knowing what's going on. I'm more worried about the casually involved voter who's not really paying attention until, and I shouldn't say not paying attention, but just is not, able to, or is not engaged in the process until close to town meeting. I think the other piece of this is that last year we used savings to balance the budget. We don't have that savings this year.
Correct.
Because I think all of a sudden, if you're like, we need $3 million to keep Bucher open, I'm concerned how that will translate.
That's right, yeah.
Then people will be like, well, why are all of a sudden we're $3 million in the hole? Like, here we go again, so I think it has to be not too layered and nuanced, but like, we had savings last year, we don't have it this year. We have to have revenue, and just keeping it as simple but accurate as
And
possible.
I think it's important to message it. We used savings last year.
Right.
Or not,
Not we had it.
we're not going to use it like that's, right, when you have savings, you want to use it for things that are one-time things, not for your operating budget.
Right.
So I think this could go on forever, but I think we need to sort of give a little bit of direction and then we need to move on. I don't know.
Well, Vinny, you and Eric were saying you think we need to cut it even more. I mean, I know you don't want to, but you're thinking from an optics perspective and from the percentages, whether it'll pass or not.
I'm just
And I'm concerned about that too.
passing.
Yeah, me
pass
too.
out, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody wants to cut.
No.
Of course. Oh, no.
But-
I didn't mean that. Of
So, but
course.
to every percentage is about 400 and something thousand.
Yep.
430,000.
They're 390. 89,000%.
Okay. So,
I have an idea. Dana, maybe we should work backwards. Like, is our goal to get it passed? That's our goal. What does that mean and what will that take?
I'm not sure is that, I mean, obviously, what.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
But
what increases the likelihood? And then maybe we can, I don't know.
Go for it.
Well,
Start.
I don't know what would increase the likelihood, other than having no override, but I don't think that's possible. I don't either. So I think we either need to be comfortable with the fact that there might be an override, or we need to say absolutely not. That's what, to me, what I think the decisions are.
Maybe I guess what I will say is, again, this is my impression, this is just my impression. My impression when we were meeting with the chairs was that they wanted it to be less than this. But I didn't feel, and I'm not putting words in, this is just my impression, I didn't feel like anyone was saying, just like level funded from last year, cut it all. I mean, I think there's there's an understanding. I mean, we've been messaging this for a year that like this was likely to happen. So I guess I feel like that like maybe there's more that can be done. It can be pared down, but we're still going to have high numbers. I do think it's a good faith thing to try to pare it down, and I'm sorry that I know you tried to get us back on track about like.
No, but you're looking at the goal. The goal
right.
is to get it passed. The goal is to get the support of the community.
But to get
and
it
what
passed-
what will that take?
But to get it passed based on while still presenting something that
that we're
holds-
proud of and we
that
want to fight
holds
for.
true to our values. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't, like, in other words, we could present as, 0%.
Right. No, that's a good point.
And it would
Something that we'd
pass.
be proud to
Right.
fight for and tell people about, and
Yeah.
something that would not compromise services.
And it would be, I wish the timing were different so that we had a clearer picture of what the towns were having to do, but that's just the way the timing works out. There's nothing, that's always been the way, and there's not much we can do about it.
That part makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
And I think too, so going back to something Eric was saying a long time ago about potential class size changing, we had to really weigh out the effects long-term of, our reputation as a district and what that could mean for enrollment, 10 years from now or whatever, if we end up kind of dramatically shifting the way our classes feel. So that's another thing to consider.
Oh, can you speak into the
Oh,
microphone?
sorry. I don't know, like the override piece, I mean, I hate to ever ask for an override, but I feel like the way things are for everybody nationally, like should be some understanding about why we would need an override, just the way everything is costing so much more money.
And I think we would be looking at it sounds to me like we would be looking at an override even if we hadn't had the E&D situation last year. It sounds like what we're saying is that even if we were at 5.5,
At least in Wenham, it looks like we would have.
right, I mean,
Break it down for Hamilton, but.
so, you know, I guess it would be, so,
Oh, sorry, I'm just clearing my.
somebody say something and then, I mean,
Well, I think,
somebody's wrap this whole thing in a nice bow.
I don't know if I can do that, but I remember the 2021 town meeting, because we were outside in the tent in
yes.
Pingree Field. And the override passed then, and I think that the feeling was that, you know, like Eric made a really compelling presentation of like, yes, we're asking you for money, but we also have made these cuts. And so I think that people, it was a credible appeal that the district had done what it could do to bring the number down, and then the people said, fine. So I think the question is, are the changes that we've proposed to the budget enough to kind of get over that hurdle this year? And it sounds like it might not be, you know, I think from what Eric and Vinny are saying, and I think none of us, I don't want to cut anything, you know, my kids are elementary school students at Bucher. The small class size has been great for them. I'm not saying that would change at Bucher, but just, you know, I don't know that the amount that we're reducing is going to be high enough to get over that kind of hurdle. And I don't like necessarily sort of bidding against ourselves to say, well, we've already cut this much and now we're going to go back and cut more without any further feedback from the towns. I think that's what's hard about this, is that it seems like there should be a step of a sort of a counter from them.
Yeah. Of
like, well, we're here and you're still here, and then it would be easier to come together.
And I did, again, it makes me nervous. I don't want to put words in there. I felt like Wenham was saying we were in the, like, that they were seeing that we were making a good faith effort, and that we were not, they wanted to see more cuts, but I didn't hear them saying, like, you need to, like, that's what I felt like, is they felt like this was good, and
right,
like a little bit more would be, that was my interpretation.
Right.
What they were saying, and I think, again, Hamilton just has, some of their people weren't there, but also, like, they just are not far enough along. They have a lot of new things in Hamilton to calculate.
They're trying to
So-
navigate a lot of things at the same
Exactly.
time.
Some of it really good, and
Right.
but, you know, still complicated. So when we first talked and gave you very vague guidance, that number that we were talking about, Vinny, was, we were saying, sort of show us what $1 million cut from that preliminary budget might look like. And then there was a lot of people, including myself, saying, like, the million seems too much. So right now, we're at, 700?
750,
90-ish.
690.
690. So
300.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, is it really, I think that I know I gave that feedback that I felt like $1 million is too much, but maybe we need to know what that looks like. I don't know if you guys know that off the top of your head.
So an overall cut of $1 million?
Right. Like, that was the upper limit of what we talked about at our last meeting. And I know some of it goes to, I understand there's some of it is revenue, some of it is,
So to get another 300, we've exhausted a lot of our non-payroll options.
yep.
Right.
So
It's payroll.
we're looking at
So
the
it'd be
bottom right
5 people,
number,
5 more teachers.
from
Or
7
5 more,
to
5 more FTEs.
13. Yep.
Yeah, you'd be at 13 probably, right, roughly.
And
Again, that number
Maybe
is
it's
dependent on.
12 and something else is added that's not, but it is staff.
And I know this is in the materials, but but I'm not going to find it super fast. But putting it in the context of the schools and the buildings, I mean, how many FTEs do we roughly have?
300.
Right.
Approximately 300, slightly under
yeah.
300, yeah.
Yeah.
We're cutting basically 3 to 4% of our staff to get that up to 1 million.
again, with increased student population,
Right.
not decreased.
Right.
Some of those staff may be non-professional staff, so then you're looking at 2.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
just going to use an example, I'm not calling anybody out, but ESP position, they're making between 20 and 30. So then you might need 2 to make up.
A
Right,
regular-
right,
It's generally how we look at it in the budget, depending on what positions we're looking at. So
Right.
It could be more, quote, FTEs, just not all teaching, counseling, nursing positions, things like that.
I don't know. I'm really torn because, to be honest, this amount of money is what I was looking for at that last meeting. That's sort of where I was landing. And this is about 690, we said, right? I was looking for 700, but again, I hear the concern that it's just not going to be enough from the towns. I don't know. Jen?
In a perfect world, Vinny, and I think this is also to Eric, where do you want it to be? Like, where would you like that final number to be?
I mean, I can give my opinion. It would be non-override in Hamilton, but I don't like what happens to the school district after that, so I will leave that decision to you guys. Sorry.
No, I know, I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah, I think, I said it earlier, I think you're looking at $1.5 million.
right.
so cutting 1.5 million.
Yeah, from the original, go back to
Right.
3.8 and some change.
So another $800,000, basically.
Yep.
And I know we're only
And
talking.
that's that's still because we're all still so unsure about Hamilton. Does that keep us in an override situation? 'Cause some people would argue if you're going to go for an override, go for it, but other people, they were pretty clear, Wenham was pretty clear yesterday, like, we need you just to do a little more work, I think everybody understands it, and then it becomes messaging. What's the message? How do we message it together as the 3 entities? But it is a hit for the district.
So what,
$1.5 million is a hit
yeah.
for the district that will hurt.
And does that happen again potentially in the next fiscal year? Because you have increased salary costs and things again, where you're still,
I wouldn't be doing my job to remind you that there's still $770,000 in E&D
E&D.
that is still offsetting this budget that will still be a problem next year.
Right.
And the year after until.
forever, yeah, until we
Next year, we
pay
would
it
hope
off.
to reduce it a little bit next year, and then the following, reduce it a little bit. It becomes as difficult as trying to pay off your credit card with the minimum balance. You just
Yes.
never get there unless you take a big chunk of it, so.
Right.
I do, I know you're looking for an answer. We're obviously not giving one. For me, I think people should say what you really think. I mean, for me, I hear what you're saying. I heard what I think I heard Wenham saying, like, you're on the right track, a little more and we're there. So I guess what I'd like the tentative budget to be is some cuts from this, but again, I just asked about what getting up to that $1 million looks like, and it's too much. It's too much. So,
It's all staff.
right.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is, like, I think that we can squeeze this a little bit tighter, but I'm not. So I guess I'd expect that the tentative budget is going to be lower than the one before us. but I think we're realistically not serving the students if we don't present a budget that is meeting are the values that we stand for, and if that means it goes to an override, then it's up to us to ask the towns for what we think the students need, what we know they need. So that's where I stand, is that I think it needs to be, we need to really be as tight as we can, and it should be cut more, but not, not a lot. Like,
For me, I hate these cuts, but I would not vote against this if it was brought to a vote. But I would really have concerns if it went to 13 FTE. So I can't say if I would support it or not. I'd have to see it. I'd have to weigh everything. We'd have to get the numbers from Hamilton. But that gives me serious pause. But I do want to say that the work that you did here, while really, it hurts, it's really thoughtful, meaningful, intentional, and good work. And there's no cuts that are good. But I think if we're going to move forward in good faith, I would not vote against this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this feels close to like level services as we could possibly get.
Seriously.
With trying to achieve some savings, even though it does unfortunately result in staff reduction. And I think if we're cutting 13, 14 people, when does that really start to materially change the district for students? I don't know. It's difficult. There's too many moving parts here. The two municipalities plus us, it's too many moving parts.
It's hard when we're such a large percentage of
The budgets.
different communities. It's a 2-to-1. When you start looking at the levy limits,
Right.
the levy limit in Wenham doesn't increase by $1 million every year. It's less than that every single year, which makes it a little more complex. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, everything we dealt with in the last 2 years with inflation and trash going up and the water, all the water issues that both towns are wrestling with, there's nowhere to get it from when I think Wenham's carrying 98% of their revenue, their expenses on 98% of their residential houses. That's a big percentage. That's a tough one. And Hamilton's not much different. I think they're 95 or 96%.
Right.
Dependent on residential taxes, which puts them in a really difficult situation. And I don't see any new growth coming, not at least from the Wenham side. Maybe down the road, but that's not going to impact this budget or the next budget, or possibly even the next budget. So when you start to look at those increases over time in each of the communities, Hamilton generally has higher increases across their revenues and their receipts, but when you start to iron it out, where's it going? There's a question. So, and I know, they're trying to maintain what they think is important for the community as well, and I get that. I get that argument as well. So it's where's that fine line of where we all kind of meet in the middle? I don't know that will be that easy this year. And if you get an override, it might be a lot easier next year, but there's still a lot of factors you don't know about, including insurance and things like that. Negotiating new contracts in the next 2 years.
Right. That's sort of one of those things, like Kristen was referencing, like, whenever that was 20 years ago, when it was back to back to back to back to, or I don't really, I was a voter, I was a parent, I don't know, but it is, now that I'm here, it is sort of like hard to understand how did that happen year after year, because it seems like this, if you were to get an override, it puts you in a better position for future years, but we saw that wasn't always true, so I don't know. And that's not to rehash the past, but it is to sort of say,
I don't know. I wish it were more realistic to sort of say, like, okay, this is the 3-year plan. We need to get from spending at this level to spending at this level. There's going to be 3 overrides. We're going to clear the E&D. I wish it were more possible to kind of really plan and strategize that way, and I think it's so difficult, it seems to me, even as a new member, to be proactive in that way, because you have all of these other interests to balance that you're basically, it feels like we're basically trying to invest in our budget, it's almost like, what can we get away with this year, as opposed to like, what do we need, And I'm not saying that means we should just, hey, go for a $3 million override, clear the E&D, I mean, I would love to like have one really bad year and clean it all up, but I don't think it'll pass.
Yeah.
That would be my wish. Like, I'd rather have one really bad year than like 3 years of pain. So.
I get what you're saying though, because this feels reactive and it'd be nice to be
incremental
proactive
and reactive.
show, yeah, like what we can do in the future.
Okay.
So I think I've heard what I needed to.
I can't imagine that that's
Thanks,
true,
Vinny.
but
Thank you.
but thank you for saying that so
Magician.
kindly.
I know.
All right.
So
Thank you.
we will be here next time with a tentative budget. Hopefully it'll be a little different than what you saw tonight.
Okay. And, I mean, in between time, I mean, if you think of something right after this, please, go directly to Eric and
With a great
share
idea.
more thoughts.
I'm going to start buying Powerball tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we make like a little, if I win, can I donate?
Donate?
Donate to the, how does it go through? The Ed Fund?
Yeah.
Probably. Keep it clean.
Okay. Thank you for all of that, and I'm sorry that was so long. This is a hard thing.
It's really hard.
All right, let's just move through here. Capital finance reports.
So we did meet, we obviously
Yeah.
discussed the budget, but we also looked at the capital projects list and decided not to add anything new off of the list onto this year's budget, because we're already looking for things to cut, not things to add.
Okay. All right, thank you, and that's more information about things that you have on that list that we're not addressing, so, thank you. Policy?
We haven't met since we all last met, but we're meeting on January 26th.
Excellent.
There's only one thing to.
We only have one thing on
Yeah.
that agenda.
Okay. Negotiations. So we had a productive meeting with the ESP union. That the goal of that meeting was to set up ground rules and set up our initial meetings, and we achieved that.
Great.
So, so that was good. And we have two meetings scheduled in January to continue those negotiations. Did I miss anything, Kristen?
I think that's it, yeah. Thank you.
Secretary report. I think you did a nice one last time, right?
Yeah.
So do you have more?
No, well, I want to celebrate capital finance. We have all our minutes in. Not necessarily approved all yet, but in.
But it's all right.
So that's amazing. And then I have 2 missing minutes for policy, but I think you said that Dave Polito had written those, or the 2000, and I'm honestly just looking at 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we go back to 2017,
None of us
we
were here.
can't do it. So, there's just 2 from policy. I can send those dates to you again.
Okay.
Negotiations, I don't believe have any missing from the last 2 years.
Nice.
And executive session, and I'm 100% sure this is probably me, have about 3 or 4 missing.
Okay.
So
And-
I have to,
On the
yeah.
executive session, do you have notes on things that are Janelle has a draft, but we just
Yes,
haven't-
Julia drafting, or
No,
Dana
but-
has draft.
Okay, because the same thing, we can't approve executive session minutes until we have another executive session.
Right.
But Janelle could hold them in a
Yeah.
secret box.
Okay, and also I haven't updated the spreadsheet yet either.
approved and held
Okay,
in there.
okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so that's
Great.
a good way to start the new year.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being on top of that, Julia.
Sure.
Thank you. I don't know that, would you have any in your inbox report?
I have no in our inbox report.
Yes,
It's been very quiet.
Thank you for that. So, I was going to say a couple things in the chair, but I'm mindful of what time it is. Eric, can you just remind us all of the community conversation dates? I think I have,
On my calendar.
I just wanted to remind people, I have January 7th
10:30?
at 10:30, and then the other one is January 29th. Is it at 7 o'clock? or-
7 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of went in the middle of the ground there.
Okay, so I just wanted to remind people about those conversations, and I encourage, obviously, anyone and everyone to come, but also I encourage the committee to try to think about people that you know in the community that are thoughtful, people with diverse opinions. Like, it would be really great if you could think of someone, and I, just as a personal note, I would encourage you to think about someone that you maybe hold different views from, but that you have good conversations with. That would be a great addition to, like,
So the first one's at the library, but the second one's at the school, right?
Correct. It's at the high school.
right, anybody else
The
have?
mailings went out, yeah, the mailings did go out.
I got mine today.
Excellent.
All right,
And
I did not, but I will,
While we
yeah.
have this live here, it probably makes sense to post those as public meetings, only because,
Yeah, so I
Oh.
think it, and I can think about what the agenda should be, but I think just to be safe, we should post them as meetings so that if a quorum of the school committee shows up,
yeah,
and again, that there would be no votes, no decisions made, we
It's
would.
just a workshop.
It'd mostly just be
It's a workshop.
listening. Yeah, it's a workshop. But I don't think it should be, I mean, that's just a legal thing. It's not really billed as a school committee meeting. It's just legally, if we're all there participating, it needs to be posted, so. The only other thing that I wanted to say is that I have been trying to have conversations in the community and reflecting, particularly with people that have different ideas than I do. And one of the questions that a couple of different people have asked me, and I think it's a good question, it's one that I've been reflecting on, is, you know, as a school committee member, when you're elected and you sit here, do you feel like you represent the students, or do you feel like you represent the voters who elected you? And I really thought about it, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and I've been answering that question as, you know, in a kind of a nuanced way, like, you know, I really feel like I represent the students, and the students are part of the community, and I wouldn't want to represent students out of context. I think the conversation we just had really represented that. But the reason I bring it up is because we all got this funny little MASC calendar in the mail, which is somewhat hilarious because it's a paper calendar. But in the back, it does have the MASC Code of Ethics, and I found that it was really helpful, so I'm just going to share a little bit about it. I've read this before, but it was nice that they sent it out. But one of the things I thought that was helpful to answer that question, like I said, that I have been thinking about, because I think it's a conversation in the community, is that the Code of Ethics delineates 3 areas of responsibility for school committee members. And those are community responsibility, responsibility to the school administration, and responsibility to other committee members. But what was interesting under community, which is listed first, responsibility to community, is that the first item under responsibility to community is that school committee members, a school committee member in their relationship with their community should, number 1, realize that their primary responsibility is to the children. So there's a lot more to this. It's a longer document, but like I said, it's been something that I thought about, and to me that spoke to what I was trying to communicate, that like it's within community and the primary responsibility is to children. So anyway, interesting MASC document that you all got in the mail.
I did receive that.
No, but
Thank you.
I used this, so I actually recycled it.
There are nice large spaces to write.
I debated keeping it, but I don't use a paper calendar.
No one does.
My check's in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Order checks.
Exactly.
Anyway, that is, I think that was very funny. That is all I have. Unless anyone has any questions for me. Does anyone have any topics for future meetings?
Nope.
Just more budget.
More budget.
More budget all the time.
A motion?
Yep.
I move that we adjourn this meeting at 9:41 PM.
Second.
All right, seconded by Jen Carr. All those in favor? And, sorry, seconded by Kristen Noon, excuse me.
that's okay.
And all those in favor, yes, and it is unanimous of the 6 members present, and we are adjourned.